At the microphone now is Bob Ray. Let's get his reaction.
The propaganda machine is going to be working overtime because they've repackaged and put together some old programs and given them new names. They've extended some funding, which is already there, and cut it a little bit, and then announced it over 3, 4, 5, or in some cases even 10 years. So it looks like a whole lot more than it actually is. And it has some very, I think, unlikely sort of targets in terms of where they think the revenue picture and everything else is going to go over the next few years. It's a rhetorical document. I mean, it's an exercise in political rhetoric. You have to understand everything in this government is about politics. So it's not fundamentally an economic document as much as it is simply an exercise in politics and propaganda. And now the sales campaign will start, and we expect that to happen. But given all the hype that was been built up and the little bits of mini burgers that the press has been fed over the last few days and the last few weeks, it seems to me there's a lot less here than you might think. On the skills training, for example, it's a whole lot less. I mean, there's no new money. It's money that's going to be delayed for several years. It's money that now requires an equal amount from provinces and employers. It's actually a whole lot less from when you consider the size and the extent of the problem. When you think that our youth unemployment in some parts of the country is at 20 and 25%, I think they've identified the problem. It's hard to take issue with some of the rhetoric. He says, we have too many people who don't have the skills necessary to do the jobs that are available. It's hard to disagree, but it's hard to think that to say that in 3 years' time we're going to have a $15,000 job grant and $10,000 of that is going to come from somebody else. It's hard to think that that's actually going to be the solution to the problem.
What do you think of the fact that provinces aren't, they haven't really been consulted about this yet?
Well, it's not surprise. We've said all along that this is an area that requires a lot of intensive consultation with the provinces, as with employers. But clearly the federal government's putting down on the table saying, we expect. What if some provinces are in a very difficult cash position? What if they're having a harder time? Laissez-moi dire que
I just want to say that there's less here than one may think. It's primarily an exercise in rhetoric and propaganda. This is a government that is a master of PR campaigns and ad campaigns, and I'm sure we'll see another ad campaign starting on the budget. But quite frankly, there's much less here, and they've identified a couple of problems, such as the unemployment rate among young people in particular, and the problem with jobs training. But to be frank, the solution isn't there. The solution they are proposing is less money, and this is, again, money coming from the provinces and from the private sector. So, well, in my opinion, it's just not enough. It's not enough to really address the problem. And that's why I'm saying that this is a budget that really minimizes the solutions, that provides solutions that are a lot less than what is needed and less than what people were expecting. They have created certain expectations in a lot of areas among a lot of people, but I don't see...
You're listening to the interim leader of the Liberal Party, Bob Ray. His reaction, predictably, not a good reaction, basically describing this as a reallocation budget, a warmed-over budget.